mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CrimeView customer webinar series. CrimeView FireView, I should say. Today's topic is specific to the CrimeView side of the program. We do this every third Wednesday of the month. We're glad you've joined us. My name is Sherry Lane. I'm part of the marketing team. And before I hand things over to Jeremy, I'm going to go ahead and just show you one section of the GoToWebinar dashboard so that we can invite you to enter questions at any time throughout today's presentation. Jeremy will be taking questions at the end, but you can enter those questions in the questions section of that dashboard, and if that dashboard does collapse, you can just expand it by clicking on that red arrow. That'll open it back up for you. So today, Jeremy Duvall, our Senior Implementation Specialist, is going to be speaking about Spatial Notes and Missions in CrimeView Dashboard and NEARme. And with that, let's go ahead and switch things over to Jeremy. Good afternoon, Jeremy.
Hi, Sherry. Thank you. Again, as Sherry said, my name is Jeremy Duvall. I'm a Senior Implementation Specialist is my title here at TriTech. I've been working with crime mapping solutions for many years now. And specifically CrimeView, of course. And that product line has always featured an array of mapping and reporting capabilities. But over the years, we identified a challenge that information that was available through the product line was not necessarily reaching the personnel that could make the most of it. And so the dashboard product was a big jump forward for us in that it's a web-based platform with content that refreshes automatically, and it's available to any approved user within an organization. So we've tried to, in recent versions, further operationalize the dashboard content by allowing users to communicate their observations and directives, importantly, in the form of what we call spatial notes and missions. And this new form of content is available in the dashboard itself, which is what we're looking at right now, as well as in a mobile application called NEARme, which we'll toggle to during the course of this session here. So what I want to do is take you through a scenario to try to bring this concept to life using the Greensboro, North Carolina Police Department's demo application of the CrimeView dashboard and NEARme tools. So as Sherry said, as we go forward, please do submit questions through the GoToWebinar during the session, and we will cover those at the end. All right, so here's the scenario. We have an identified hotspot of burglaries, or cluster of residential burglaries more specifically. And this could have come through a number of processes. It maybe came through preparation or a CompStat meeting or the inquiries of the crime analysts, their work. But in any event, we've found that there is a cluster of burglaries is uncommon for this particular area here. And so ultimately what we want to do is be able to communicate this information to other folks. So what I want to do first is look into sort of research a little better what the cluster contains and some of its characteristics so that I can be a little more precise in the directive that I put out later. All right, so the first thing I want to do is, you can see I've already selected for the crime cluster in question, and we have a number of residential burglaries in this neighborhood here south of Phillips Avenue, and then a few as well in this apartment complex just north of Phillips Avenue. So what I want to do at first is try to understand which days of the week and which times of day are most likely to be hit in the future for this set of crimes. So what we can do is expand the chart section and just try to look and see if there are certain days of the week that are more prevalent than others, what times of the day, and so on and so forth. So you can see there's not really strong correlation here or pattern as far as the days of the week. Sunday is equally hit to Tuesday, for example. So we could focus a little more on the time of day. We see these are mostly daytime burglaries, which is perhaps not surprising in a residential area, right? So that's one piece of information that's going to be useful for us. We could also open the table and take a gander at some of the details, specific times and dates. If the application contained MO or narrative information, we might want to look at those. This is being a demo application. This one doesn't tend to have that for security and privacy reasons. So this is sort of garbled data for the most part that we got from Greensboro and sort of anonymized it. So I don't go into too much stuff on that here, but typically you might have underneath like your additional record details section, you might have narrative or MO, other elements that you're capturing from your RMS that aren't necessarily available in this main table matrix here. Okay, so that's the first thing I would do. And then secondarily, I want to see what other activities we've done in this vicinity. So I can quickly toggle over to the query builder and maybe look at which arrests have taken place in that same area. And maybe I'll expand it a little bit chronologically just to gather a little more duration here. So I'll go 90 days maybe instead of the 30 days represented by the crime cluster itself. And go ahead and execute that query. And then, basically just investigate some of the results and try to understand, some of the people who may have been involved in this. And actually, I should probably be slightly more precise in this to choose arrestees that have committed certain crimes. So burglary, you might arguably put in drug violations on that, or stolen property. So my initial results here are a little broader than I would have intended. So that's what we can do is continue to filter down from a broader set of information into a more concise one. And so again, I could look at individual records here. So gather names and physical characteristics, or look at those in the table form. Okay, so I'm sort of collecting all this information as I go through these queries here, and this will start to inform, the specific information I'm going to push out. So maybe we'll take that to the next step and look at a series of field interviews and just try to see if there were any recently that we've done that might have people of interest here. So again, I'll go back to the more recent info here, given the time span of the cluster itself. Okay, and we see a few individuals here who've been field interviewed in that general vicinity, especially in that apartment complex. Let's look at the table for this collection here. And one of the neat things about this application is that we have linkages built in here. So, for example, if I click on, say, this gentleman here, it will tell me how many related records there are for that particular field interview. And we might see details such as what he's been arrested for in the past, or what incidents he was involved in, and so on and so forth. So, and again, this is faked data, so don't read too much into the names and physical characteristics. But, we can see for this person here, they've been arrested for trespassing, larceny, breaking and entering, so on and so forth in the past. So this is, a good person to add to our details, is someone to whose door to knock on, so to speak. So again, I'm continuing to gather information from these various inquiries with the idea that, ultimately I'm going to publish this out in some fashion. Now, you can see this drew lines, just as an aside, drew lines to the physical locations of the other events that that person has been involved in, which is kind of a neat aspect of this as well. Now, so thus far I've been looking at other aspects of the records management system, other modules within the source system that I could pull from. The other thing I want to do is engage the community on this as well. So what I might do is turn on what we call an operational layer, representing the boundaries of community watch areas, and try to see whose areas might be affected by this particular problem here. So we can see that given the way the boundaries draw, we probably want to reach out to the watch leaders for the Textile, Woodmere Park, and Elwell communities here. So that's a good piece of information for us to include as well. I can go back and turn that off. All right, so at this point, I think I have a pretty good sense of some things that I want to include, in my directive here. I mean, I might also search for bolos or mugshots for some of those individuals I'd come across via the arrest or field interview searches, so sort of have that material on hand. But at this point, I'm going to go ahead and create the actual mission here. And we do that with the tool called the Spatial Notes. And you can see there are three different types of geometry that you can use for this type of tool. Point would be basically if you were assigning, say, a specific unit to a location, or a line geometry might be if you had an event that was along a route, like a parade, let's say, and you needed to mark up a linear feature, you could use that geometry type. But the most common one we'll probably use overall would be the third category, which is the Polygon Note. So let's convert the tool over here, and we have a cursor to draw with. And actually, let's do this so I have a little better sense of it. Let's go back to our result layers, and let's turn on the original incident results here so I have a better sense of where these are. All right, so when drawing this mission area, I think I'm going to exclude this apartment area here because there isn't already an officer sort of assigned to that on a more continual basis. That's a known problem area. So I'm going to choose to focus my mission on this cluster that's falling south of Phillips Avenue here. And so, with the drawing tool, I really just have to click one of the corners of the shape I want to draw and just go ahead and mock that up to, whatever degree of precision I choose to here. I'll go down Elwell Avenue and then across Wendover, and then double click when I want to finish the shape. All right, so this will become the area that we're going to alert other staff members to. And when I'm done with the shape, I can hit finish. And there are a number of different items that we can add, to this discussion, basically. So first thing I want to do is make sure that this is a mission, and that'll come in handy, or it will be important later when we start talking about NEARme. So we do want to set it as a mission, and we do want to save it out to a group. All right, so what I mean by that is that you could have a large collection of these missions or notes that we put on the map, and it may be that you don't necessarily need for everyone to see all of them. So you can organize them into what we call note groups. And those note groups can also be sort of restricted based on roles. So it may be that only officers working in District 4, for example, can see the missions or notes in that group of notes and missions. So in this case, I'll choose a relevant district and give it a title. So this would be something to the effect of a residential burglary, well, maybe even specify a daytime residential burglary cluster. And all those details that I've been compiling through the other inquiries into arrests and field interviews and so on and so forth, I'm going to sort of plug those in here. I have that pre-defined. Okay. And crucially, we want to make sure that we're going to check this item where it says published near me. Now, it offers the ability to sort of have these missions expire. So it's understood that a hotspot isn't going to be always a hotspot continually. It will start to lose relevance as the crime hopefully dies out as a result of our actions. But we do want to say that this will expire in a certain time frame. So I'll leave the default 7 days for that, and we'll reevaluate the efficacy of it, after that frame. But the other thing I want to include here is the range of times. So again, we saw that the crime cluster itself was pretty much always at night. I'm sorry, during the day rather. And so maybe we'll be a little more specific with when we are routing individuals to those locations so that we're not, sort of wasting their time. And so we'll set this from basically 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. here. We can also add hyperlinks. So for example, if this was an event, plan, for example, I might add in the organizing entity's homepage or a schedule or something. There could be a variety of things I might add to that. For example, if your RMS is web enabled, maybe hyperlinks to the individual arrests or other records from that system that you can draw back to. That would be one idea. I'm not necessarily going to do that here. I will, however, add an attachment. So it accepts JPEGs, PNGs, or PDFs as attachments. So I might throw, a mugshot on there. And for those of you who haven't met me, I'll give you a taste of my beauty here. You'll see this soon enough. Okay. All right. So we have all the configurations for this this mission set up. So go back and make sure that I have this set to publisher near me, and we should be okay here. All right. So what it did is it dropped that new shape onto the map, and it also added it to something called the Playbook. Right, so this is a place where we can manage and review and so on and so forth all of the different notes that are in groups that I have access to, and that tool is found at the bottom of the screen here. All right, so in the playbook, of course, I have access to a bunch of different note groups. You may not necessarily, any given person may not necessarily see all of these, but this is where we can toggle the visibility of those notes, either en masse for the whole note group, or if I drop that section open, individual notes visibility. All right, so we see what the narrative and the title was that we entered in there. Of course, we can print from here, we can edit it, and again, as far as management of it, we can delete it as well. So that, again, this is the kind of place where when you start your shift, or if there's a roll call, sergeants come in, brief officers on new missions that they or analysts might have created, in preparation. By the same token, I know a lot of agencies don't necessarily have a physical meeting for, roll call. They just go straight out on patrol. So being a web-based application, as long as the MDTs have the firewall opened up to access the application, they could use the dashboard on their MDTs to review these missions as well. However, what we would like to do in addition to or instead of is use this other application called NEARme. All right, so NEARme is a Windows-based location-aware application for use in the field. And so the idea is that it's going to provide location-centric information and these missions that we've been creating to officers on patrol, help keep them safe, and put actionable information in their hands. So you can see, I've toggled over here to the NEARme application. That same mission area that I had drawn is now visible. I'd come in, I want to make sure that when I come in, I have the same playbook turned on. So, make sure District 4 is on, and so on and so forth. I mean, typically it's going to remember those settings anyway, but make sure that I'm viewing what I should be. And you may notice that there's an arrow driving around, so that represents a mock route that my vehicle, quote unquote, is taking throughout the city of Greensboro here. And so I can toggle the GPS of that, with the tool at the top here. So, generally speaking, I'm an officer, I'm in my car, starting my patrol shift, come in and review the mission that has been set up. And to do that, I can click on the corner here and it shows what the directive is. So I have a good sense of what I need to do, when I'm not responding to calls, or if this is a dedicated car, maybe this is what I spend the bulk of my time, doing is patrolling this area that's been set aside. The other things I might choose to do or look at what kind of comments are available. So hopefully I'm not the only staff member who's putting some time against this location. I might come in and look and see if there are other comments here. So in this case, I hadn't entered any yet, but come in and review any comments that other people had entered. Review any attachments that might be included. So this is the grand reveal. Sorry for the graininess of the mugshot there. But so any, again, any mugshots, any hyperlinks that would be available would be accessible through that dialog there. I also probably want to get a sense of, what is the general activity that's happened, especially as it pertains to this new directive I have. So if I go on over, I can go to this data section, and there are a number of pre-configured what are known as themes. So given that this is a residential burglary mission, I might choose to turn on the burglaries theme. Right, so in this case, the burglaries theme contains those burglaries themselves for the last 30 days, but it also has been pre-configured to have arrests for burglary for a longer duration, I believe 365 days. And then much like in the dashboard, the user here in NEARme can bring up those details on those individual events. Right, so that would be one, sort of theme you might look at. There's another one maybe that might be illustrative here. We can toggle over to the prolific property crime. So this is similar, although it also includes things like theft from vehicle, theft from building, and related arrests. But it also contains what are known as, in Greensboro anyway, as ranked offenders. So they have a sort of a procedure by which they take known offenders and categorize them to different degrees of repeat, activity, let's say. But that being relatively specific to Greensboro, you could also use parolee or probation or records. Warrants in particular is a great fit for this application in the sense that, if you have the warrants shown and it's sort of location-aware application, you're driving around, you can see the last known addresses for recent, wanted persons, and hopefully that increases your agency's service rate. So in any case, you might do this at the beginning of the shift, and then you go on patrol and perform the directives from that mission narrative. Contact those community watch group leaders, watch out for suspicious activity, so on and so forth. So periodically, or as activities arise, what you should probably do is come back in, as I mentioned before, and add some comments in here. Let's see, I don't know, no suspicious activity at Jolson and Textile, let's say, and submit that. Maybe a few minutes later, I come in and I, suspicious person fled, could not contact or something to that effect, right? Submit those. All right, so we have sort of a running tally across, multiple shifts of activities that individuals have done. So you'll see that those are time-stamped and user stamped on who entered it. And so to kind of bring this whole idea full circle, what the sergeant might be doing back at headquarters over on the dashboard is sort of the same, same thing here. If we go and look at this mission in the dashboard, he's monitoring it from, or she is monitoring that from this other end of it, looking at the activities that the officers are submitting, making sure that there's patrol actions being done, collecting intelligence that might be fed in here, and then updating these notes or missions with that relevant material, adding other photos, let's say, or other details, whatever those materials might be. So that kind of brings the whole idea full circle here. We're a few minutes short here, but I did want to leave a few minutes for questions and such. So maybe let's check and see what you guys have added, if anything, here. Okay. Well, I must be quite concise in that there aren't any questions. So we'll give it a few seconds here. Please do add any questions in. Okay, we do have one coming in here.
And just a reminder, I hope you don't mind me jumping in here, Jeremy, if that GoToWebinar dashboard collapsed for anyone during the presentation, you can just click on that arrow and that'll expand it. So sometimes it takes people just a minute or two to get that expanded and their question typed in. So just a little reminder there.
Okay, yes, there is oh, here we go. Okay, so the question is whether NEARME is a part of the standard package or an add-on. It is an add-on, so it's a separate application that's deployed and configured independently of the dashboard. So definitely contact your sales representative, for example, or if you want to contact me, I can put you in touch with the right people to start investigating that. Okay. So that was the only question thus far. So hopefully, oh, wait, we have one more coming in here. Let's see. So that's a good question. So the question is, our department does things on mobile phones instead of MDTs. Does the NEARME work on a mobile phone? So right now, the NEARME is a relatively new application. The current version only does work on Windows. So in that sense, it is sort of restricted to MDTs as opposed to other types of mobile devices, iOS or Android. However, the intention is to release iOS and Android versions of the product, hopefully in the near future here. Okay. Well, I don't see any other questions. So again, thanks everyone. Oh, Okay, as I was saying that, one more popped up. Let's see, who do I contact to get the narrative and the pin that pop up? Okay, so I guess that's a question specific to the configuration for a certain site. I would say, contact support. That would be a good start. So it's CrimeView-support@tritech.com is one means to do that. Alternatively, whatever project manager or implementation specialist helped you with that originally, if you're still in touch with them, that's another option. So there's a few ideas here. All right. I think that's it for the questions. So thanks again, and enjoy your day.